I'd like to welcome everyone to the Nassau County Board of Commissioners meeting for 6 p.m. December 11th, 2023. I ask that you please silence your cell phones and stand with me for the invocation and the pledge. Dear most gracious and heavenly Father, we come to you today and thank you for the many blessings you bestow upon us on a daily basis. As the Prince of Peace, we humbly ask for your guidance over our meeting and that you show us unity and productivity for the residents we serve. We ask that you direct our thoughts, words, actions, and decisions through your divine wisdom. Purify our thoughts so that each of us here will enter this meeting desiring the good of others and the pleasure of your precious name. Thank you for America's military members, all of our nation's first responders, and those who have made the ultimate sacrifice and duty to our great country. I ask that you bless their families, their loved ones, and the American values that we fight to defend on a daily basis. And it's in Jesus' precious name we ask all these things. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner McCullough. Here. Commissioner Gray.
Here.
Commissioner Hupman.
Here.
Commissioner Martin.
Here.
And Chair Farmer.
Here. Public comment for non-agenda items. Comments can only be for items under the authority of the Board of County Commissioners. Time limit is 3 minutes. Do we have anyone here that would like to speak on non-agenda items besides the two that I have here, speaker cards? Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. Irving Gilliard, 5469th Street, American Beach. And I'm not sure how many more Monday night meetings we've got. This may be the last one for this year. So I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank the Board of County Commissioners, County Manager's Office, and the County Attorney's Office for your help this year throughout with our water and sewer project. You know, we've had some growing pains, some mishaps and all, but we're working through them. So again, thank you for your contribution to American Beach.
Thank you, Mr. Gayard. We appreciate your leadership there in American Beach as well. Anyone else prior to the cards I have? Miss Osborne, Jackie Osborne, welcome.
Jackie Osborne, P.O. Box 16796, Fernandina Beach, 32034. Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for allowing me to address you tonight. The shelter is offering free pets except for puppies. All you need to do is contribute a toy or some food, and of course they'll take money. Free pets, everybody. They have Pet Express in effect now. Pet Express is available for those who are unable to get to the shelter to pick up a pet. Once all the paperwork is completed, the community engagement personnel will deliver the pet to your door for his forever home. Y'all listen to that now. Free pets, they'll bring it to you. Nassau County Animal Shelter has placed donation boxes at all of the libraries. Our citizens have been very generous towards that effort. There are currently 117 cats in the shelter, and 53 more are in foster homes. There are 89 dogs in the shelter, with 83 in foster homes. There are still some kittens available. 5 were returned to foster yesterday and ready for neutering and spaying and adoption very soon. The Nassau County Animal Shelter was called on by the Sheriff's Office to a home where some squatters were evicted from the property by the owner. Animal control officers and the shelter were the recipient of 9 cats, 3 dogs, 2 geckos, a dozen goldfish. The geckos and the goldfish have gone to a foster home. The animal control did not find any partridges in pear trees or 4 calling birds. Thank you very much. Free pets.
Thank you, Miss Jackie. Yeah, and it's everybody loves, every little boy needs a puppy. So there's some of those dogs down there that are just precious, you know, and to speak on behalf of Nassau County's Animal Services, this past Saturday, you never think it's going to happen to me. And my sister's little Chihuahua got out, and man, it was a panic. Somebody down the road was down there, I guess, shooting a rifle or something, and the little dog doesn't like rifles. And so some resident saw the little chihuahua out by the road, scooped it up, and got it to our Nassau County Animal Services. And so disaster was averted. And I'd just like to thank them for being responsive, because, man, my sister called and she was extremely upset about the dog for about an hour block of time there until we located the dog. And the vet tech met her down there and gave the little dog back to her. But yeah, I tell you just can't say enough good things about our people that are just, there for our citizens. I mean, my sister, she said, the little girl that picked her up didn't want to take anything. She said, I gave her $50. She says, and she's like, you don't owe me anything. She said, no, you probably saved my dog's life. So, it's just a testament to the residents and friends and neighbors, and then Nassau County Animal Services. So thank you, Miss Jackie, for the good work that you guys do for our citizens. Up next, have Paul Burns. Welcome.
Good evening. For the record, Paul Burns, Vice President of the Amelia Island Convention Visitors Bureau. Thrilled to be here. Thank you very much for the honor to give you a brief little update on Dickens On Center. And if I can have access to that presentation. There we go. Do I just roll down to the next? Great. We'll start off incredible weather right up till 3:21 precisely yesterday, but we knew that was coming and we had it fully planned. But we're going to go through a couple, I'll call it Dickens by the numbers. And so where it turned out, total attendance estimated about 74,800 individuals over the course of from Thursday night all the way through to late afternoon yesterday. Roll to the next, there we go. Thursday night, the illuminated procession kicked us off, and I've got a couple pictures in here because when you look at the numbers, you really do appreciate the breadth and depth of just how much we were able to pack into just a couple of days and on such a beautiful backdrop. So Thursday night, we started off with illuminated procession. Absolutely packed to the gills. Friday night, almost identical as well. Great attendance, great weather. Saturday night, again, all of these just tell the testament of what was going on. Every single one of those evenings was delivered with a nightly drone show with awe and ooze by everyone, especially when the Amelia Island and the Dickens On Center logo was presented. But a lot of good feedback from that. Dickens by the Numbers continued. The Enchanted Village totally sold out. There was 112 reservation slots. We hosted in 8 of the igloos, 446 guests with snow during the day and or at least modified Amelia Island snow for the kids to enjoy. For entertainment, we had 2 stages, total of 43 entertainment slots ranging from, we see the entire list there of entertainment that scoured the entire weekend. The event vendors themselves gave a great opportunity to have a few presents underneath some trees in a couple weeks. 100 vendors, when we were talking to the vendors, across the board, everyone said they almost, if not undoubtedly, doubled their retail sales this year compared to last year. So that's great news for them. If you were up early on Saturday morning, you were one of 204 runners, possibly, that were part of the Run Like the Dickens race. There might have been a few T-Rexes, snowmen, and Grinches that were also making the run along the way. Saturday morning, the Parade of Paws saw lots of characters, 4-legged and some 2-legged characters that were on the street as well. Excuse me. On Saturday night, another sold-out event, Dickens After Dark. 164 guests showed up to that event. And then, of course, throughout the entire weekend, our daily streetmosphere entertainment and wardrobe, if you will. Special thanks to all the volunteer participants who came down and possibly even stepped out of their comfort zone once or twice. I was one of them, and my picture is not up there because I am not in my comfort zone there. But you might have recognized Mr. Langley on the left, and maybe not because I didn't as he approached me. And a special thank you to everyone in Nassau County for their support, their participation, their encouragement, their attendance, particularly Fernandina Beach Police and Fire Department. Conversations started on Thursday afternoon of the approaching storm And we were talking every other hour on the weather that was approaching, and we were very, very proactive in avoiding any incidences. And then, most importantly, I want to thank every one of you, everybody across the entire county for your encouragement, your support, all of the behind the scenes, and certainly for the county commissioners for all your encouragement for this. So thank you, and 365 days will be here before we know it, and we'll do the countdown again. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. It's an outstanding event. I heard some chatter going around amongst some of my colleagues here that said it was a outstanding event. And once again, you guys put on a tremendous show, so thanks a lot. Any other public comment for non-agenda items? Seeing none, that will move us into public comment for agenda items. Except for quasi-judicial items, any member of the public can address any item on the agenda now or wait until the matter is addressed. Time limit is 3 minutes. Do I see any comment for agenda items? Seeing none, that will move us into expansion items or deletions to the agenda. Mr. Pope.
I have none tonight, sir. Thank you.
Ms. May?
I have none, Mr. Chair, thank you.
All right. We'll move us into presentations. Time limit's 15 minutes. Tab A, Community Planning Collaborative, Current Historic Preservation Planning Efforts in Nassau County. And welcome up our staff.
Hi. Hi there, good evening. It's nice to be here with you all, commissioners. Thank you. My name is Adrienne Burke. I'm with Community Planning Collaborative, and some of you are familiar faces. It's nice to be back here working with Nassau County. I was previously in the planning department here, so it's very nice to be back working with the citizens and the elected officials here. We're going to talk to you a little bit about what we're working on with the planning department for current historic preservation planning efforts. Oh, there's the clicker, thank you. Okay, so just a quick roadmap for tonight's presentation. We'll introduce a little bit about ourselves and who we are as Community Planning Collaborative, and then we're going to talk to you about several things that we're doing relative to historic preservation in the county. One is working on the Evans Rendezvous restoration efforts in American Beach. The other is the new Citizens Guide to Preserving Historic Places in the County. We're going to briefly mention the bicentennial exhibit that we've been helping with, and then talk about some next steps as far as historic preservation goes. And I'll let Ennis take over for a second.
So good evening. My name is Ennis Davis, and I'm also with Community Planning Collaborative. Just a brief introduction. I'm from the city of Jacksonville, where I've worked as a urban planner for about 22 years, and I've known Adrienne since 2014. But in this intersection of urban planning and policy and historic preservation, over the years, we both saw there was a kind of gap within how those go together. So we decided to launch a new practice to fill this niche and this void within this planning arena. And Community Planning Collaborative is that result. Just briefly, some projects we worked on this past year include Cultural Heritage Trail in downtown Jacksonville in the community of La Villa. Some economic development work around the restoration of a Florida Main Street program in Opelika, Florida. Historic preservation work around the Florida Chitlin Circuit in various cities throughout the state. And we've also worked together in the past on a resilience project out in Wharton, Texas, around the Colorado River there, and connecting that community with a levee project in the waterfront there. So we're going to briefly talk about our process and work with Evans over the last few months.
Sure. So back when I was working with the county, starting in 2018, we were beginning to do a lot of really detailed work with the American Beach community on planning efforts generally. So we were exploring various types of planning tools. At that time, there was discussion about a community redevelopment area. We were doing community meetings around the county's budget process, how land use and zoning works. We did a lot of community meetings and working with American Beach neighborhood, who are extremely committed and dedicated, showed up to a lot of Saturday meetings. I give them amazing credit for the work they put into the neighborhood. And we did a community survey about things that the community wanted to see and were interested in for the future of American Beach. One of the results of that planning effort was the cultural heritage Experience Enhancement Initiative Plan, which is not easy to say, that Ennis worked on, and I'm going to let him talk about that for just a second.
2 years ago with Dr. David Barth, I had the opportunity to work as a sub-consultant on this plan, but this was taking some of the initiatives that were started in previous years and creating an implementation strategy around putting some of the efforts into work. So working with the community over the process, there were big eight initiatives that kind of came to the fore. One being public infrastructure enhancements, which is the water and sewer project that's currently underway. 2 and 3 are projects we're going to be working on now, 3 being the restoration of Evans, and then 2 being the reevaluation of the intersection of Lewis and Gregg Street, so which is also known as the Crossroads. But overall, the plan was basically a way to enhance the public spaces within the neighborhood in a way that would be balanced with the history, cultural heritage, and the existing community that is there today.
Yeah, and so continuing this effort, we were brought on by the county earlier this year as a continuation of the efforts that have been going on in American Beach, the conversations that have been happening around the planning efforts that have continued since 2018, and even before that, I know that there was work going on. One of the major projects for the community that stood out as a priority for the community, and I know there are several members here from American Beach tonight, so they can speak better to this than I can. But it is very important that the Evans Rendezvous restoration take place. So the county acquired this property back in 2004 with assistance from the Trust for Public Land and the Florida Communities Trust, which is a state program. As part of that, there was a management plan that was implemented, which we'll talk about in just a second. There was some initial restoration work done on the building, such as a new roof. I believe the windows were done at that time to make the building more watertight. But since then, things kind of just were dormant. And with the planning efforts going on in the community and the priority that was placed on the project, things have started to get reactivated. So at the time that I was here with the county, that's a picture of me with some of the residents of American Beach and then the National Park Service and Commissioner Bell at the time, we applied for a grant from the National Park Service to get a historic structure report completed, which that's the picture here, was just finished this year. It was a multi-year grant. And then most recently, the county applied for and was awarded a state African American cultural and historic grant that will help with some of the restoration at the structure. And these are just some pictures. We won't get too much into the history because it's amazing and there's a depth of history out in American Beach, but these are just some of the historic photos from the Evans Ocean Rendezvous, from its heyday from the 40s up until the 80s and even into the 90s.
And so in regards to Evans Rendezvous, I mean, this project within the state management plan, which we'll briefly discuss, is really called the American Beach Historical Park. It consists of basically 1.67 acres, and that is made up of 3 parcels, 1 parcel being the Evans property itself, 2 parcels to the south of that, which was the former hotel, which was demolished several years ago, and then across the street from Gregg Street, there are also 3 undeveloped parcels today. So that is what the focus of the Evans restoration project is.
And going back to that state management plan that we mentioned, that does govern the use of this space. So that helps a lot in determining what the future of this space is. And I won't go through this slide because it is a lot of words, but from the management plan, these are the top 5 objectives. And you can see highlighted there, the 5th objective is to stabilize the Evans building and renovate it to support public interpretation, recreation and social event uses, and to provide a source of revenue for management of the historic park, which is those 3 components that Ennis mentioned. So in the plan, they also talk about physical site improvements, and there are restrictions. So again, this management plan limits what can be done at the site. Again, that's part of the agreement with the Florida Communities Trust that helped fund the project. There In the plan, there was identified a beach pavilion, a dune boardwalk, which has been completed at this point, interpretive facilities, so that would be things like signage talking about the environmental and historic features of the site, the wildlife observation platform, which was completed as part of that dune boardwalk, landscaping and parking were also contemplated as part of the historic park. And then the plan does mention providing space for a food service or concessionaire, and expanded interpretation, again, mentioning that, and then potentially being used as an event space.
And so to date, we have had 2 workshops with the community to build consensus around what potential reuse of the property would be. The first meet was held on November the 4th. That meeting was basically a kickoff and an introduction and just a discussion about different uses. The second meeting was recently held on December the 2nd. Some of the uses that were identified include really programming around the space in terms of potential cultural center and different events that you could have within that space could include everything from arts-oriented type of events to a place for meetings or even for educational facilities, different schools like such as the FAMU or something where students come in and learn more about the area and kind of help provide additional research around resilience and things in the community as well. In addition, the lots surrounding the property, some things that have been mentioned include additional park space that pays homage to the past and those individuals associated with the development of American Beach, and then to feature a lot of native landscaping within those areas as well. The third meeting is tentatively set for January the 27th, and we hope to, well, not tentatively anymore. The third meeting is scheduled to be on January the 27th, and we hope at that point in time, following that meeting, there will be some general consensus to move forward, at least in terms of how to program the space in regards to the current adaptive reuse and work that is planned for the project.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
you know I'm a typo guy, right?
Yes,
So
sir.
you mean January 27th, 2024, right?
2024, you are exactly right. And then in regards to that, we are going to have another series of meetings on the Crossroads, which is a greater area around Evans in 2024 to build consensus around a plan on how to move that forward in a way that respects the history and character of the community as well.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Adrian and Ennis, you guys, along the way over the next couple months, you're going to come back and continue to give the Board of County Commissioners updates as the community input is synthesized. You come back and make sure that dialogue continues.
Yeah, absolutely. That was actually one of the questions that came up at the last meeting was, final decision-making around the process. And so we, relayed our understanding is, of course, the county is the owner of the property, has final decision-making authority, but it's our understanding that the county is going through this entire process because they want to understand the community's wishes and desires for this property. So yeah, absolutely, after the third meeting, we'll be back with an update on what we found. I will say, and I hope, again, anyone who's here, if they want to correct me, but I think we got to a really good place at the last meeting as far as consensus goes. I'll just share, and this information is all public. We sent out the notes that recapping the meeting, and they should be going on the website for the county. But there was general consensus around the vacant lots to the south and the west, that those remain open spaces in some capacity. So there was definitely a consensus around that. And then, making sure that the Evans building itself is restored as much as possible to its original appearance. That's also important because the grant that the county has with the state is going to drive a lot of that anyway as a historic preservation grant. But really, the conversation was around the programming that Ennis mentioned, making sure it is a community space available to the public, but recognizing it is unique in the fact that it is in the middle of a residential neighborhood, a large, currently residential neighborhood. And so being mindful of, what hours and days it operates, that kind of thing, noise levels, et cetera. So I think the community is getting to a good place with where they see the vision for the property, but we will certainly be back.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
And then just very briefly, I'm going to touch on a couple of other things that we're doing for historic preservation. Thank you. So this is a project we're really excited about. It's a new community resource that we're passing out. These are hot off the presses, also available online, but this is the Citizen's Guide to Preserving Historic Places in Nassau County. It's really intended to be a resource for anyone in the community who's interested in the county's history or historic resources. So it just goes, this is just a list of the items it goes into, but it really is kind of like a 101 for, so you're interested in the county's history, what can you do to help protect it and promote that? And so we're really excited about it. We have shared it with many people, with all the cities, towns, Callahan and Hilliard, the history museums, the Historical Council in Yulee and in West Nassau, Friends of American Beach. It's going to be shared with the historic churches, Fernandina Main Street. The list goes on. But if you think of anyone else that might be interested in it, please let us know, because we want to make sure it's accessible. The county has not had a resource like this before, so we're very excited about it and want to make sure it gets out there as far as it can.
And while I wouldn't give Adrian Ennis a lot of credit on this, I'm kind of hard on consultants, as you can imagine, and so seldom do I get something I'm like, wow, that's really nice. And so I got this about a month ago, 2 months ago. I was very impressed, and I've used it in very practical senses when people have questions that before we never really had a resource to direct them to. And now they ask, well, my cemetery, or there's this structure that used to be in this location, how do we go about finding resources to help us preserve it? And so now we have a really nice manual that we can give to people, that then you have educated citizens who are out making preservation efforts on their own and being the catalyst for preservation. So great work to Ennis and Adrian for pulling this together, and it's a really great resource for the county.
Thank you. We really appreciate that. And having worked with the county, and I lived in the county for a long time, the history here is really remarkable, and it's very extensive. And so anything we can do to help promote that within the community, I'm always on board to help with. So I'm really glad this came together and will be a good resource. Next, I'll just talk about, we're also working with the county manager's office on the bicentennial exhibit. So 2024 is the county's bicentennial, and we have been assisting with a traveling exhibit that will be going around the county. It's going to be pop-up banners that explore 5 different themes throughout the last 200 years of county history: geography, history, people, culture, natural resources, and industry. We did have the text reviewed by experts at 2 of the local historic museums, and we're currently in the process of finalizing all the photos that can be potentially utilized, and then the banners will get designed and they'll be ready to be used for next year. So we've had a lot of fun doing that. And I will say it's very hard to synthesize 200 years of history on a banner. So it was a fun challenge. Just next steps that we've talked about with the county manager's office and the planning department is assistance with the second phase of a county historic resource survey. So back, I believe it was finalized in 2020, the county had the first phase of a historic resource survey done, which is basically an inventory of historic properties and sites in the county. This had never been done at a comprehensive level before at the county, so there is a lot to do. So consequently, that's why it had to be done in phases. So the first phase focused on Callahan, Boulogne, Briceville, Nassauville, and portions of US 1, 17, and State Road 200. There was a real priority to look at sites that are in flood-prone areas. And that had not been surveyed as part of any other potential project. And so these are just some of the results from that survey, but phase 2 needs to happen. There are still a lot more resources to be recorded. People sometimes laugh when they find out that historic, according to regulations, historic is something 50 years or older, and a lot of people think, well, 50 years, but like, I'm 50 years old. That's not historic, right? But we are in the preservation field surveying now up until like 1980. and into the early 80s, because it's always a good idea to be a little ahead of that. So there's a lot to look at in the county that hasn't been looked at before. So we're working on hopefully getting a survey, phase 2 survey started in the next year, and that will continue that preservation effort. And then I think that's it. Yeah, we're happy to answer any questions. Our contact information is here, but we will definitely be back and happy to answer any questions in the meantime as well.
Any question or comments for Mr. Davis or Ms. Byrd?
I want to say thank you. I know, Mr. Pope, I had a citizen in my community, and this was the first place that we started, and actually their church group, I've met with them twice, and we went through some of your links in the book, and so as somebody already using the resource with my neighbors, I'm so grateful, so thank you.
Oh, I'm excited to hear that.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing that. That's great.
Let's see
That's
on
what it's
your-
for.
Bottom of page 13, and here it says there was two new cottages built in Hilliard at the cost of $205 each, I think it says there. You can't build a gingerbread house for that anymore, can you? So
Oh,
that's
yeah, from the
rather
Cornwall,
interesting.
the Cornwall Land Company, yeah.
That's pretty-
Those are some good prices.
Yeah, I'm telling you, that's, we turn back turn back the clock. I'd like to buy a couple of those if you find them. We appreciate your hard work. It's excellent, and look forward to working with you and the residents as we move forward.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for your time tonight. We appreciate it.
Right. I will move us into consent items. Any board member wishes to move consent item, new business, please do so now. Does any member of the public wish to speak on a consent item?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I would like to move the following tabs from the consent agenda to new business. Tab B, C, D, H, and K.
Okay. So that leaves us with E, F, G, I, J, and L.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the consent agenda with the exceptions of tabs B, C, D, H, and K.
I have a motion to approve. Do I see a second? Have a second?
I have a motion from Commissioner Martin, second from Commissioner Hupman.
Call the vote.
Commissioner McCullough,
Yes.
Commissioner Gray,
Yes.
Commissioner Hupman.
Yes.
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
and Chair Farmer.
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
Thank you. We'll move us into new business. Any member of the public may address any item under new business at this time. Time limit is 3 minutes each. Anyone wish to address any item under new business? Seeing none, we'll move us to tab B, approve and authorize finance package 2024-2 and associated resolution. And I will kick that over to Assistant County Manager Ironman.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Couple items on this finance package, as we always like to, or the board likes to hear on the major financial items. Two of the larger ones here. The first item is moving funds from an account that's a direct expenditure into a reserve account. And so as the board had moved forward with modifying the reserve policy to further address the Amelia Island Renourishment Fund, or what we call the Santax MSTU, this allocation moves that money, that $2.9 million, into the reserve. And so then to utilize those funds, we'll have to come back to you in the future and have you designate the use of those as needed going through the years. The other major item here is an allocation or budget transfer in the general fund of $290,000. This is reallocating the funds for the Emergency Operations Center equipment. Previously, it was a line item to transfer out to the sheriff. This will actually be purchased directly through the county, and so we'll retain those funds, and we move the expenditure to a equipment greater than $50,000 cost object code. That concludes the items.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve tab B.
Second. I have a motion and a second to approve tab B.
I have a motion from Commissioner Martin, second from Commissioner Hupman.
Call the vote.
Commissioner Hupman.
Yes.
Commissioner Gray.
Yes.
Commissioner McCullough.
Yes.
Commissioner Martin.
Yes.
And Chair Farmer.
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
Moves us to tab C, approve finance package 2024-3 and associated budget transfers.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, again. This item is, I'll give the kudos out to our deputy county manager, county engineer. They were able to work and receive an additional almost $2 million towards the Amelia Island Trail project under that CIP. With that funding being received, we can reallocate some of those dollars that we'd set aside for that As we look forward to some of the major projects, we're moving essentially, I believe it's $400,000 to the William Burgess Roundabout, and so that'll help us complete some of those projects and at least get the funding over there as we begin to get into the ground on a lot of these items. And that is the only item on this one.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve tab C.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve tab C.
I have a motion from Commissioner Martin, a second from Commissioner Hutman.
Call the vote.
Commissioner Gray.
Oh, I apologize, Commissioner Gray.
Call the vote.
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner McCullough,
Yes.
Commissioner Gray,
Yes.
Commissioner Hutman,
Yes.
and Chair Farmer.
Yes. Moves us to tab D, approve EHAC report and accept recommendations for review and inclusion in future local housing assistance plan, LHAP. Mr. Iron.
Thank you, sir. So our Central Housing Advisory Committee, they've been working diligently through the year to look at the incentive strategies, look at some of the affordable housing opportunities that are within the county. This report is the annual requirement, so they're specifically required to look at those 11 incentive strategies. This year, they actually came back with 2 new items that previously were not part of that package, one of them being subject to the review and development of site plan approvals. As necessary, the county shall allow for a reduction in street requirements for affordable housing. So long as said reductions are otherwise consistent with the land development regulations and comply with the comprehensive plan. The second one relates to overlay districts within Nassau County shall promote higher density development and affordable housing in transit-oriented nodes where applicable. So some of these are looking forward to the future to make sure as we have our overlay districts, we have our developments, we're planning for those higher densities and those opportunities for affordable housing. One thing to note in this is this went to the EHAC in November. Since that time, the board has had their annual, the board meeting, the annual structuring of your boards. And Mr. Hutman was, or business meeting, and Mr. Hutman was designated for another year as the head of the EHAC. So we can adjust this in the term sheet as well to reflect that the 2024 in lieu of 2023 termination.
Mr. Chairman, that's what got my attention. I noticed that the term was obsolete, really. We've voted to, for all of us to continue on different collateral duties that we have, and this is one of Commissioner Hutman. So this will, when I went to Assistant County Manager Ironman about it, I said, hey, again, the typo guy, I noticed we didn't do this, and he gave me that explanation. I'm like, okay, I don't have to pull it from the consent agenda, but he wanted me to go ahead and do that so that we can fix it right now.
Sure.
And that'll make it a fix. So, having said that, well, I'll defer to you. This is your board.
Oh, I would make a motion to approve tab D.
I'll second that motion.
Have a motion and a second to approve tab D.
I have a motion from Commissioner Martin, a second from Commissioner Gray.
Commissioner Hutman.
I apologize,
Okay.
Commissioner Hutman.
Call the vote.
Commissioner Gray,
Yes.
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner Hutman,
Yes.
Commissioner McCullough,
Yes.
and Chair Farmer.
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
Moves us to tab H, approve and authorize the chairman to sign contract number CM 3498 with ARC Surveying and Mapping, Inc. for continuing contract for professional surveying and mapping services not to exceed $2 million for a 3-year term. Mr. Item.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Continuing as we've seen on many board agendas, we are working to get continuing service contracts in place. This will greatly facilitate our capital projects as we move forward. The item tonight is for the surveying and mapping services. We have 4 top firms that we'll be moving forward with. This is one of those items for ARC Surveying and Mapping. This is a continuing service contract. We do note the $2 million. But again, with all of these contracts, they come back with separate work authorizations. I know you'll see one on the next agenda on December 20th, so those will come back depending on the dollar amount to make sure we have approval, and that would be consistent with your budgets as well. That concludes my report.
Any questions for Mr. Ironman in regards to tab H?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve tab H.
I have a motion to approve. Do I see a second?
Second?
I have a motion and a second to approve tab H.
I have a motion from Commissioner Martin, second from Commissioner Hutman.
Call the vote.
Commissioner Gray,
Yes.
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner McCullough,
Yes.
Commissioner Hutman.
Yes.
And Chair Farmer.
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
Moves us to tab K, approve and authorize the chairman to sign contract CM 3511 with Motorola Solutions, Inc. for the Public Safety Radio Replacement Project in the amount of $277,000. Mr. Ironman.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As this board has moved forward with a lot of investments in public safety over the last couple of years, this is one of those items. So this completes one of the CIP projects in upgrading our Motorola 911 system. One step that we're looking at, this is the $277,000, I believe, investment for upgrading the units to the new Motorola system. Again, as part of the legislative appropriations, we've also asked for additional grants to do further work on this, but this is just the first part that's funded out of the CIP.
Any questions for Mr. Ironman on tab K?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve tab K.
We have a motion.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve tab K.
I have a motion from Commissioner Martin, a second from Commissioner Hupman.
Call the vote.
Commissioner McCullough?
Yes.
Commissioner Martin?
Yes.
Commissioner Gray?
Yes.
Commissioner Hupman?
Yes.
And Chair Farmer?
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
Moves us to tab M. Consider the following. Number one, affirm the Planning and Zoning Board district representatives in their term. 2, consider any alteration to the Planning and Zoning Board district representatives if needed. Number 3, appoint one at-large member to the Planning and Zoning Board to a term effective January 1, 2024 through December 31st, 2026. Mr. Pope.
Yes, sir, thank you. Take a moment, there's one item that I want clarification on as it relates to your ordinance that governs appointment and terms of planning and zoning board members. What I provided you in your packet was the slide from the 11/27 meeting, which listed the district appointees along with their expiration dates or their term dates. And then there's a follow-up slide that's the same format, but in the second slide, the top is for 12/11/23. It lists the 8 applicants that have applied to serve as the at-large member of the Planning and Zoning Board. So before we go into the first step of the proceeding, which is to affirm the district appointments and their effective dates, I'm going to look for consensus. In your ordinance 2023-13, and my recollection of your discussions and intent was that the terms of your district appointees would run concurrently with your terms. And so seats 1, 3, and 5 are through December 31st of 2024. Districts 2 and 4 are through December of 2026. And so there's a slight inconsistency in the ordinance where it refers to 3-year staggered terms, and then the following paragraph, it says concurrent with commissioner districts, which obviously, commissioner terms, you all serve on 4-year terms. And so that would be my first question, is that my recollection of your intent was that your district appointees would run on 4-year terms concurrent with the Board of County Commissioner districts expiring in December of that year. So you would have basically a 60-day overlap between the new commissioners, if they're elected, sit, and then the Planning and Zoning Board terms being completed. So I would like direction on that before we move into the next.
Mr. Chairman. Yes, sir, Commissioner Gray.
I think County Manager's got his recollection correct, in my opinion. Any other board members like to chime in?
Mr. Chairman, he's absolutely correct. And for those that weren't part of that discussion and the general public, the reason it's the December 31st of those years is so when, if there are new commissioners that are elected, or even if current commissioners get reelected, they have an option of continuing with the person who's serving or replacing them without having to remove somebody midterm. It's more pleasant that way if you're going to do that. And so the reason the end of the year was chosen was so if there are new commissioners that are sworn in, that happens in mid-November, and they'll have time to, if they do want to replace anybody, they can think about it and plan for it.
That's correct.
Yeah, and
So
I agree.
So I think the
it's-
4-year terms is what we should go to.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly, yeah, because I was stuck with that. And not that the guy wasn't a great representative, I just had people that I wanted to appoint to those boards. So, yeah, I agree.
And I believe this conversation started, thank you, Mr. Chairman, sorry. This started at the planning meeting at the beginning of the year. And I think somehow we didn't catch that when we Did the ordinance work?
That's what we're going to go through and do,
Okay.
to reaffirm it, and then set their term dates, and then we'll move forward from there, and it'll be on the record nice and clear. So what I'd like to do is read the name, the district they're appointed to, and their term. I'll read all 5 of them.
Yeah.
And then we can affirm that, and then we can go on to the at-large.
At the end, I would like just consensus to direct me. I will make the ordinance consistent with your direction tonight. So that ordinance will come back to you just to make it consistent.
Sure.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Todd Erickson, District 1, term 12/31/2024. Ron Flick, District 2, term 12/31/2026. Ashley Spicer, District 3, term 12/31/2024. Karen Brantley, District 4, term 12/31/2026. Tyrone Blue, District 5, term 12/31/2024.
Yes, yeah, motion, Mr. Chairman, or not?
Just consensus?
I just-
Yeah, consensus.
I mean,
Consensus?
it's just solidifying the information is correct, right?
Okay.
And yes, so
Yeah, so we-
I'm hearing at least 3 or 4, maybe
Yes.
all
Yes.
5,
Yes.
confirming that?
Yes,
Agree.
affirm.
Correct.
Agree.
Yes.
Okay.
Affirmative.
All right, with that out of the way, sorry for the inconvenience there, is now to the business that's at hand, is the vacant position. As part of the reorganization, there is one at-large position that is assigned by the Board of County Commissioners as a whole. I was directed to solicit applications. Those applications were received. There was a total of 8. We conducted in-person, or excuse me, Zoom interviews with each of the applicants. I can say unequivocally that all 8 of the applicants were not only more than capable, all had good intention, right? I didn't feel like anyone at all had an ulterior motive for being on the planning and zoning board. They truly wanted what was best for the community. Each one of them were fantastic. Each one of them had different attributes and strengths. The interview team, the interview panel, there was 4 of us. It was Deputy County Manager Robert Companion, myself, Elizabeth Back, your Planning Director, and then Holly Coyle, who's your Economic Resources Coordinator and former interim Planning Director. And so the 4 of us independently ranked the applicants based on a variety of our individual thoughts. And while any of the 8 would be more than sufficient, we ultimately recommend to you that Mr. Win Findig be appointed at the at-large position. It comes into, it really reflects on his previous service in Nassau County, on the Planning and Zoning Board, on BOCC-created committees and task force, his work in Western Nassau in the community as part of the White Oak Plantation, and then being in the community for 33 years, plus coming from the Golden Isles in Georgia and St. Simons. And so some of the stuff that they saw 20 years ago really on the horizon for us. And so the entire package with both his experience in the community and on the Planning and Zoning Board edged him above the rest. And so that is our report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir. Commissioner Gray?
I'd like to make a motion, please.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to appoint 1 at-large member to the Planning and Zoning Board to a term effective January 1, 2024 through December 31st, 2026, and that appointment, based on the recommendations presented to us, would be Mr. Win Findig.
And I second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
I have a motion and a second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Gray, a second from Commissioner Hupman.
Call the vote.
Commissioner McCullough?
Yes.
Commissioner Gray?
Yes.
Commissioner Hupman?
Yes.
Commissioner Martin?
Yes.
And Chair Farmer?
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
And I'd like to say that I appreciate the other 7 applicants. There were some really impressive resumes in that group. And I hope that we can encourage some of those people to help us with some of this planning issues as we move forward. Historic preservation, I know one individual had quite a significant amount of historic knowledge. And, I'd like to make sure that, we stay in contact with these people because their knowledge is invaluable. And thank each one of them again for putting their name in the hat, if you will. All right, that will move us to tab N. Consider and approve the agreement for traffic control on private roads between Hideaway Owners Association, Nassau County, and the Nassau County Sheriff's Office. Is it you guys?
Are they my
you-
own?
You guys want to? Yeah, I mean, I
I'm
could-
happy
I
to
could
represent.
entertain- I
The
could-
sheriff's office enters into these with the individuals that petition for them, right? Come in and regulate their roads as to street signage and to speeding. They have to give certain things. The county is a part of that to allow for the sheriffs to go in, and that's going to be on item N and O. You're going to see the one for private roads between the Hideaway Owners Association and one between the Summer Beach 2 Homeowners Association, and they petition us for that.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir,
in
Commissioner.
regards to tab N, that's in my district, I'd like to make a motion to approve tab N.
I have a motion to approve. Do I see a second?
Second?
I have a motion and a second to approve tab N.
I have a motion from Commissioner Gray, a second from Commissioner Hupman.
Call the vote.
Commissioner Gray,
Yes.
Commissioner McCullough,
Yes.
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner Hupman,
Yes.
and Chair Farmer.
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
Mr. Chairman, in terms of tab O, I make a motion to approve tab O. Summer Beach.
Mr. Chairman.
I have a motion and a second to approve tab O.
I have a motion from Commissioner Hupman, a second from Commissioner Gray.
Call the vote.
Commissioner Hupman,
Yes.
Commissioner McCullough,
Yes.
Commissioner Gray,
Yes.
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
and Chair Farmer.
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
And it plainly states in that agreement that we don't take over the roads for maintenance.
That's correct. We do not
I
take them
just like
from
to throw that in there.
This
you
is
know.
for enforcement
Yes.
under
Thank you, Mr.
360.
Chairman.
Yeah, just, I did read the document.
Yes, sir.
Moves us to tab P, consideration of real property purchase and sale agreement between Nassau County and US 1 Properties LLC. Mr. Pope.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Over the last year, we've been working on a plan to better facilitate the access to government services in western Nassau County. The library, the tax collector's office, the health department, everyone is not only running out of room, but a lot of the buildings that we're using are either leased space from a private entity, or they were built decades ago and are in need of some care. So as we started running out different scenarios, the best way to address the situation, we really felt that it was most conducive to citizen access to consolidate the government uses onto a single parcel of land close to the center of the town of Callahan so that it was accessible to the most people. We started looking at different properties around the general Callahan Town Center and ultimately found a site that is right in front of the new Ace Hardware that was built. We reached out and had contact with the owner, conducted the appropriate appraisals, and are here tonight looking to move forward with the purchase and sale agreement to secure the property. It would be a partnership with the constitutional offices and the town of Callahan. And so if we are successful in acquiring the property, the plan over the next course of years would be to no longer lease space from a private entity and construct space for the tax collector, the library, the health department, clerk of courts, property appraiser, and then also conversations with the town of Callahan about having some of their administrative offices in the campuses as well. And so if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them. The funding sources are here in the staff report. Marshall can go into more details about how those funds are allocated or where they're coming from and how they'll be allocated.
Any questions for Mr. Pope, Commissioner Martin?
Did you? Mr. Chairman, yeah, the only question I had, and Mr. Pope has already answered it, because I asked him before the meeting, but I want to make sure it's on the record. With the appraisals, did this property, or the offer we've made, did the property appraise higher or lower? Because you don't want to get beat up. You pay this price, and then the general public finds out that it was appraised a lot lower. But I'm happy to say that the property was appraised higher, right, than the purchase agreement.
We are below the appraisal.
We are below the appraisal. Okay.
Yep. And, Mr. Chairman, thank you. That's my same question as I got with county manager, and I was inquiring about the appraisal, and I was satisfied with the answer that I received. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, same. Anybody else?
I know that when Mr. Pope and I talked about it, I mean, several times, I've been going to that library since I was in school, but I just thought about the long-term lease of these buildings. You know, when you're a taxpayer, when you see those investments back in your community, when the taxpayers own the building, and we're putting back in, and I think ultimately it's going to serve, especially on the west side as we grow. I know as I come over to Yulee significantly, when you get off of work and you try to get over here in time for certain things, and they're closed because you just can't get over there. So I think as the community and the county grow, it's important to have resources across the county for our taxpayers. So thank you.
Any further discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve tab P.
See a motion, I see a second. Second. I have a motion and a second to approve tab P.
I have a motion from Commissioner Martin, second from Commissioner Gray.
Call the vote.
Commissioner Gray,
Yes.
Commissioner McCullough,
Yes.
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner Huffman,
Yes.
and Chair Farmer.
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
And I'd also like to go on the record as saying, it's been a long time coming, but why lease when we can own? And it's a huge accomplishment for Nassau County to have a one-stop shop for all of our residents to come and engage. Thank you guys for the hard work. Moves us to tab Q. Consider canceling or rescheduling regular 2024 BOCC meetings that fall on or near observed holidays. May 27th, 2024, June 19th, 2024, November the 11th, 2024, November 25th, 2024, and December 23rd, 2024.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve tab Q.
I have a motion, do I see a second?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Commissioner Huffman, do you have something
I
you'd
was
like
just going
to?
to say, per the recommendation, it's to move the first three meetings listed, correct? May 27th, June 19th, and November 11th. And then it's to cancel the second the last two meetings, November 25th and December.
That's the way I understood it, yeah.
Great. I just want to clarify that for the record.
Yes, sir.
Moving the first three meetings, canceling the last two. Thank you. Thank you,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman.
All right, call the vote.
I have a motion from Commissioner Gray, second from Commissioner McCullough.
Call the vote.
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner McCullough,
Yes.
Commissioner Huffman.
Yes.
Commissioner Gray,
Yes.
and Chair Farmer.
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
Thank you. That moves us into legislative public hearings. Following matters under consideration are legislative matters, and the non-quasi judicial procedures will be utilized for the following. County Attorney will read the procedures.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As stated, tab R is a legislative and a non-quasi judicial hearing. The procedures are in place to give everyone who wishes to speak for or against the item an opportunity to do so. Those wishing to speak for or against the item being considered shall have 3 minutes to address the board. All statements should be addressed to the board. Please do not engage in attacks on other speakers, staff, or board members. Speakers must begin by stating their name and address for the record. Please do not be repetitive or restate the same information. Sharing or transferring of time is not allowed. The clerk will control that time. Again, that is 3 minutes. Anyone presenting documents as a part of their presentation, please present them to the deputy clerk as they become part of the permanent record. The meeting is being recorded. No applause or outbursts, as it does distort that recording. The board will then close the public hearing and discuss the item under consideration and may ask questions of speakers or staff. The board will then deliberate and vote on the item. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to open the public hearing for tab R.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Either way you want to go.
I have a
Open the
motion
public.
from Commissioner Huffman, a second from Commissioner Gray.
Call the vote.
Commissioner Gray,
Yes.
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner McCullough,
Yes.
Commissioner Huffman.
Yes.
And Chair Farmer.
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
Staff presentation.
And that is my item. I will tell you that annually you adopt this resolution. The resolution is to use the uniform method for collecting non-ad valorem taxes. Those are taxes on certain of your MSBU or MSTUs, including Amelia Concourse, SACE, the sand tax, Amelia Island, and others. And so annually you adopt this method of collection, which calls for us to do a roll annually and to place it on the tax rolls and be collected as a part of the taxes. So it's a housekeeping measure for which you take and adopt annually.
Is there anyone here to speak in favor of or against tab R? If so, please come to the podium. Your time limit is 3 minutes. Seeing none,
Trying to move to close the public hearing.
All right.
Second.
A motion and a second to close the public hearing for tab R.
I have a motion from Commissioner Martin, second from Commissioner Hutman.
Call the vote.
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner McCullough,
Yes.
Commissioner Hutman.
Yes.
Commissioner Gray.
Yes.
Chair Farmer.
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
Board discussion or action by motion?
Mr. Chairman, based on a review of the applicable testimony and evidence provided, my motion is to approve the resolution electing to use the uniform method of collecting non-ad valorem special assessments for tab R.
Second.
A motion and a second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Martin, a second from Commissioner Hutman.
Call the vote.
Commissioner Gray.
Yes.
Commissioner McCullough.
Yes.
Commissioner Martin.
Yes.
Commissioner Hutman.
Yes.
And Chair Farmer.
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
All right. Moves us to county manager's business. Mr. Pope.
Yes, sir, thank you. I have one item tonight. I need your assistance, and it'd be by consensus. Typically, taking a particular use and placing it in a use grouping isn't something that makes it to this level. It's handled at the staff level. But we have one that has risen to the surface, and it is a little bit nuanced. Your land development code doesn't define tattoo studio, tattoo parlor. It's simply not a use that's listed. And then that's not atypical. There's lots of uses across the state and, in the county that aren't listed specifically. And when you have that situation, you find the most similar group of uses and you say, okay, it fits good in that particular use group. And that's how you determine if it's appropriate in the zoning district or not. And so at the staff level, it came up as a tattoo parlor is consistent with uses such as barber shops and beauty shops. Okay, get it? I can see how you get there. It makes a lot of sense. And the question arose is a tattoo parlor also consistent with medical dental offices and clinics? And the thought being that, similar to a dentist office, you make an appointment, you go in, there's needles and, waste that has to go into the properly discarded containers, and then you leave. And so the performance within the building is functionally the same. It's not as if it's creating fumes or it's not a brick kindling, right? So you're not going to have smoke or these adverse impacts from the performance of the use. And so the question that we were seeking legislative consent from the Board of County Commissioners on is would you find it, or do you believe that a tattoo parlor is equally as appropriate in a use grouping with salons and beauty shops as it is with medical and dental offices? If so, County Attorney and I would appreciate direction to clarify that within the code, and then if there are any supplemental regulations that are needed associated with tattoo parlors, we would bring that back to you in the form of an ordinance. And so if that's the direction you want to go, we will head that direction. We'll come back, and it'll probably be 60, 90 days before we're able to really flesh everything out, but we're happy to make that.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. We do need to identify and not exclude any business or anything, and I do agree with that. You do have my consensus on that, because, we have businesses or some groupings, they need to be where they can operate. And sometimes we have, I remember years ago, we had dispensaries and things like that. We had no area for them to go, but we had to create it. So yes, I'm in favor of creating that. Thank you, Mr. Pope. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other commissioner?
I agree. Yes, I mean, we've got to define their space in Nassau County, and they're a thriving business, and it's time to proceed forward.
Thank you.
Commissioner Morgan?
Well, I'm going to assume that we all were contacted by the business owner. I know I was contacted by the business owner that this will pertain to, and it really, if we don't do this, okay, it's really going to be a sad situation for this gentleman who also, not that you give special treatment, but also happens to be a Marine Corps veteran, and him being able to operate in the space that he is leased for 3 years. So he's really, not only is it the right thing to do in general, but it really is the right thing to do for this young man because he's caught between a rock and a hard place. So you have my approval on this.
I concur, Mr. Chairman.
I'm 110% on board. Those guys have to follow the same rules that a dentist office or and you can go get your eyebrows tattooed on now at a salon studio. So, I mean, I didn't know that was a thing till just recently, but, I don't want mine tattooed on, but, hey, some people like that, and that's cool.
Just for clarity, this isn't about a particular business. This
I understand.
is the use groupings and the appropriateness of looking at the performance of a particular use within.
And let me clarify, I didn't, what I said wasn't, like to drive consensus that way because of this one business. I agree with it in general. I'm just glad we were able to, the county manager, you were able, and the county attorney, you were able to collaborate and give us something that we could work on.
So, looks like the consensus I've heard is that that's what we should do, should group them in there with the salons and the barber shops. So, all right, move us to county attorney's business.
Thank you, sir. Before you tonight is just an ask for you to ratify the authority that I granted after speaking with each of you individually to the county manager in requesting exclusion from certain litigation. Now, this litigation is, please don't make me try to pronounce this correctly, but polyfluoroalkyl substances, PFAS for short. It's been in litigation probably since 2018. It's used in firefighting film. It's also used for our purposes in wastewater treatment plants. And the deadlines came upon us without notice. So we had to make a quick decision based on some analysis from other jurisdictions, from other attorneys, and specifically with the FGUA, who is also opting out of this particular class action settlement. The reason being, we have no idea of the level of damage that may be needed to be repaired. We would be settling now and forever foreclosing our ability to go back and litigate without really knowing what the damage is or what we may have to pay out is. We're not required to test until 2025. We do feel like there were enough of us opting out that should we need to go back and litigate, there would be enough of us to spread that cost around. So we did opt out of that by the deadlines of December 4th. County manager did authorize that, and so I'm asking you tonight to simply ratify the action of the county managers executing a request for exclusion from that litigation.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir,
I'd
Commissioner.
like to make a motion, please, sir, for tab S to ratify and the authority granted to the county manager and our county attorney's request in regards to tab S.
Have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I would just like to clarify for the record, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. May, they didn't do this on their own, and now they're coming to us to ratify it. We were all contacted individually to weigh in on this, and the only reason it happened the way it did was because of the deadline.
Yes, the deadline was found on a Friday, and it occurred on a Monday,
Right.
so I had to act quickly.
That's, easier to get forgiveness than it is permission. That wasn't the case here.
Correct. Have a motion and a second to ratify.
I have a motion from Commissioner Gray, a second from Commissioner Hupman.
Call the vote.
Commissioner Martin?
Yes.
Commissioner Gray?
Yes.
Commissioner Hupman?
Yes.
Commissioner McCullough?
Yes.
And Chair Farmer?
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
Moves us to informational items. Tab T, informational only, Florida Forest Service, public meeting announcement, draft 10-year land management plan of the Cary State Forest. And I didn't see that here in my stuff, but I presume that that's somewhere we can find it online or.
It was in the packet.
It was in the packet, but it was brought to me, and we took it to Mr. Pope, and it was brought to him and everything. Basically, in District 4, we do have an opportunity for the residents. They've invited the residents, all of you, to come out because they're working on their state management plan, and it's right next to our ballpark. And so basically, when I was talking to the representative who's working with the Duval and Nassau County, and actually sit on that board in my other capacity as agriculture education teacher. And so it's a great opportunity for you for the county, for the school to cut, for citizens to come out and just play a role and advocate for what they want to see, because you have these opportunity for management plans only one time every decade. You know, if they don't put in their input there, that opportunity will not arise for another 10 years to have any say in proceedings. And so that's actually how they got the campsites in, was in the last management plan. There was no campsites, and so the community came out, they incorporated campsites into the plan, and now here we are. They put them in about 5 or 6 years ago, but it was kind of neat because now there's a whole camping area, pavilion area. We've had field trips out there. So I think it's, when you have these opportunities to work with the state and all of the residents and citizens benefit, I think it's important to engage in those management plans.
I was looking more for a date, is what I was looking
Yeah,
for.
it's January 11th, Thursday,
Oh.
January 11th.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, at 10 a.m.?
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
yes,
what-
sir.
Yeah, I didn't know what the date was. So, yeah, okay, perfect. And it's gonna be held down at their office on 301, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's perfect, okay. Yeah, that's what I was looking for, but no, I agree with you. Come out, I mean, and be a part of this stuff, because like you said, I mean, once every 10 years, it's a long time, so, you know, I mean, come on out and be a part of that planning. Help us plan for these state forest lands. And that will move us into county commission items. Commissioner McCullough.
That's an agenda item, and last Wednesday, we actually had a community meeting right there at the Community Briceville Center, and we had more than 50 residents who came out and taught, Mr. Pope, Mr. Companion, Mr. Ironman, and Ms. Coyle were there. We had, I think it was like 56 residents and that was just a rough little count that I tried to get from the back of the room, who came out to the community, and it was so, you know, there was, of course, you know, a difference of opinion, but I thought it was a really healthy, great opportunity for residents to engage, and I'm grateful for the staff that they were able to come out there. But I think a lot of people, what's great about those community meetings is that people leave with a better understanding. You know, they come in with those questions, and the county staff, we were able to execute those answers, and so it was a good, productive meeting. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Commissioner McCullough. Commissioner Gray.
Yeah, just congratulate Mr. Fendig and thank all 8 of the 70 of the other applicants who applied for the Planning and Zoning Board. We really appreciate their interest and hope that we can use you in some other capacity in the future. And that's all I have, sir.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Gray. Commissioner Hutman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had the pleasure of participating in the Yulee Parade along with Commissioner Gray and yourself on Saturday. That was a really fun morning. It's something to watch them logistically close 17 for a little while, or divert it, however, I don't even know how they pulled that off, but that was fun. Mr. Ironman, to you and the staff, thank you for your work on the EHAC report and getting that finished and submitted on time. That's related to our ship and sale funds. It's critically important to get it done for the county. That also brings up that if you look at the report, there's one vacancy still on the EHAC, and I'd like to get that filled so that when we go into 2024, we have a full roster. So I'm looking for someone from the business community. The vacancy I have calls for someone who's in the local business community. That could be a small business owner. I'd really love somebody who's interested in trying to work some housing solutions for our service industry business folks. So if you hear me, I'm putting the word out there. I'd love to get you on the EHAC team for 2024. And last, Mr. Pope, thanks for that last item. You know, our job in the county is to find a way to say yes, especially economically for these new businesses that want to come in and be part of our community. And that's one of the ways you do it. So thanks for that. And I think that sends a clear message to other folks too. Thanks.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Hutman. Commissioner Martin.
I would like to extend kudos to Gil Langley and the Convention and Visitors Bureau's team on a very successful Dickens on Center. I went down there with, I had some out-of-town guests over the weekend, so I went down there a couple of times. And if you haven't been to it before, you should go next year. It really is, it's a lot of fun. The drone show was great, so kudos on Dickens on Center. And these out-of-town guests I had, they were in town for the extended Martin family, or the Martin family extended, oh God, I'm getting tongue-tied. My family's, extended family's Christmas, annual Christmas celebration. So I had a lot of folks and relatives that came up over the weekend, and why am I telling you that? That's the reason I couldn't make it to the Yulee Parade. So I wish I could have been there, and maybe next year. And last but certainly not least, since this is the last evening BOCC meeting for 2023, I would like to acknowledge our chairman, Commissioner Farmer, for an outstanding job in 2023. I know you still got one more meeting, but that's a daytime meeting. So I want to acknowledge you, folks that pay attention to the evening meetings. I think you did a great job.
Thank you, Commissioner Martin. I appreciate that.
That's all I have.
As everyone else here on the board, you know, it's a festive time of year. There's always a lot of events going on. It's hard for us to be at two events at the same time. So, you know, I as well have been at several different holiday events around the community. We had Callahan tree lighting this last week. Last weekend, the West Nassau Historical Society did a fantastic job. Had a lot of members of the community show up. I mean, they had a lot of snacks there and candy for the kids, and you know, had a visit from Santa. It was just a really, really warm family environment, and I'd like to encourage you guys to participate as we move forward. Anything you see over there with the Historical Society, it's just a wonderful event put on by some great people. The Yulee Parade, great time. Appreciate the opportunity. Saw a lot of people that I knew and saw some that I didn't know, you know, but they all were very receptive, and I think that they all had a wonderful time there. This Saturday at 6 p.m., we're having the 3rd annual lighted boat parade out in Kings Ferry. So if you guys are out there and you want to bring your boat out there, it's open to the public. Come on and put you a string of lights on your boat and come on out and put it in the water and have fun with us. Last year we had 30 boats show up, which is pretty cool, I think, for just something out there in Kings Ferry. So, you know, we figure if we can get, you know, 35 or 40 boats this year, we'll be doing great. I know we'll have one that we didn't have last year because the fire chief reached out to me and said, hey, if we're not on a call, he said, well, do you think we could throw that boat in the water and lead the parade? And I said, absolutely, you could lead the parade. I think that would be outstanding, and the kids would love it. So he said, take them on a call. You know, he says, if we get a call, we got to go. He says, but, you know, he said, we think that, you know, we might be able to dunk our boat in the water and lead the parade, which is, you know, half a mile to the east and half a mile back to the west. And I thought that was really cool that he reached out to me and said, hey, you know, we want to throw that boat in there because it gives us the opportunity to utilize it. Plus, it shows the community that we're unified. So come on out if you can. If you don't have a boat, come to the boat ramp and watch it. It'll be a good time, good show. And Commissioner Hutton.
May I get my dime back?
Yes, sir.
Thank
Go
you,
ahead.
sir. This Saturday, 9 o'clock in the morning at the fairgrounds, is Breakfast with Santa.
That's right.
Nassau County Breakfast with Santa. Last year, Commissioner Farmer was out there flipping flapjacks all morning.
Yeah, with
Quite cool.
Commissioner McCullough. Yes, she was there.
Are we flipping pancakes again
I'll
Saturday?
be back, yeah. Let's do it
Okay,
this
let's
Saturday
do
morning
it.
at the fairgrounds in Hilliard. Breakfast with Santa.
Yeah, so,
See you out there.
yeah, come on out if you can.
Or bring a present. I know for the children, bring your wrap present.
Swap,
Yes,
yeah.
sir. Or, yes,
Yep.
but I mean, if you bring your children, if you want them to partake in the gift exchange,
Right.
Bring
they
wraps.
have to bring the wrapped gift.
Right, right. And all that can be found at, you know, our Facebook page, Nassau County. Florida has that on there, and I think it's even on the County Insider. I saw Miss Sabrina taking pictures the other day at the parade, and she said she said she was gonna be back to work this week. So, you know, I mean, I thought that was pretty good to see her out there. She said she was feeling better as we rode by, but no, if we have anything else, nothing else to come before the board, we're adjourned.
Yeah, I saw her Saturday.